Today's lecture is to explain the U.S. Supreme Court decision known as Citizen United and to discuss how it must be overturned in order to preserve our democracy. First, a little background about the case. It was a landmark case that determined corporate personhood. And corporate personhood is a legal notion that a corporation, separately from its associated human beings, has at least some of the legal rights as a normal human being. The rights of a citizen and the rights of a corporation cannot ever be the same. Herein lies the problem. How can this be? How can we allow this to stand? For corporations that don't vote or don't register for the draft, yet we afford them the same rights under the First Amendment in regards to political contributions. According to Bernie Sanders and others, democracy is one person, one vote, and a full discussion of the issues that affect us all. Oligarchy is defined as billionaires buying elections. This is more like the system in Russia. Voter suppression and concentrated corporate media determine what we see, what we hear, and what we read. Do we really want to become Russia? Our entire democracy is therefore, our way of life is at risk. More now than ever, especially when you consider who's occupying the White House. And really, to look at this, you have to imagine a corporation having the rights of a human being. To me, it's a no-brainer. And somehow our Supreme Court went that way. In the last presidential election before Trump, Obama and Romney raised about $1 billion each, mostly through corporate money. These corporations want something in return, and it looks like Trump and the Republicans have gifted them with the biggest corporate tax cut in history this year. All of it, over $1 trillion, is added to the national debt to be paid for by you and me. This is a great real-time example of what happens with unrestricted corporate donations. That $1 trillion gift was given to the same companies that we bailed out in the financial crisis. It could have gone a long ways towards universal health care. What is critical to our survival of democracy is taking that big money and corporate interest out of politics. At the core of the ruling is the concept that corporations are people, and therefore they are protected by the First Amendment. Furthermore, unbelievably, the ruling also decided that spending of cash was the same as speaking by a human. Therefore, the corporate people talk with money, and that spending is a protected form of speech. We all know that's wrong. In conclusion, I would like to leave you with a feeling of renewed optimism and a resolve to fight the corporate takeover of our democracy. Best summed up by Abe Lincoln. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people, by the people, and for the people, not the corporations, shall not perish from earth.